everybody, welcome to the snow training video for F&B Landscaping 2021-2020 season. I'm just going to go through a few things here, and hopefully this will give you some idea what goes on during a snow season event for us. I hope that this gives you enough information to feel like you've got some training. Normally we'd like to do this in person, but we just can't do it right now with COVID. So we're gonna go ahead and do it this way. I will be putting together some little bit more training specific to hooking up plows and things like that I'll do later. But this is the part we would normally do in the classroom. So let me go ahead and go through this with you. So snow removal is a really, really important part of our company. We generate about 20% of our revenue through snow removal. And arguably it's our highest profit work we do all year. So it's a really important part of the company, and it's something we take a lot of pride in doing well. I think we get year after year, we get a lot of feedback that we do snow removal at a really high level. So that's a good thing. We want to keep that up. And part of being able to keep that up means keeping you guys trained and knowing what you're doing. So let's get started here. Snow sidewalk shoveling. I'm going to go through sidewalk shoveling, plowing. We're going to go through all the different kind of aspects of what we do in a little bit of detail here. So shoveling sidewalks is probably one of the more important things we do. So we want to make sure that we are ready for it. And part of being ready for it is the pre-storm preparations. Make sure you are fueled up as well as your truck. We'll talk about that later, but your body needs to be fueled up. So you need to have plenty of water and lots of food. Typically you need to make sure that you eat and drink a lot of water the night before, but also bring water with you and bring food with you. We can't always be stopping at gas stations. Sometimes we can, but a lot of times it's better if you just have a bag with some sandwiches or food or snacks or whatever in there with you. And then make sure you bring a big water jug. It's really easy to get dehydrated plowing and shoveling. You don't realize it because you're cold, but your body's getting dehydrated. So part of the success of being able to do this long term throughout the storm is to be hydrated and have food and energy for you. Make sure you lay out your clothes and shoes the night before. You need to have a little bag ready to go. We typically know when we're going to go out and do snow, even if it's just on call. You just need to be ready for it. So put a bag together, have everything you need in it, maybe some extra socks, extra pair of gloves, maybe an extra hat if you've got one. You just want to have all the things you might need. And in that, make sure you've got your lunch or some snack food for sure. And then, the big thing is be prepared for anything and everything. You just never know what you're going to come across in a snowstorm. So basic shoveling starts with, clearing any walks that need to be dumped into the parking lot and hauled away by the truck. So if we plow the curb line and you haven't shoveled yet, we have to come back then and shovel the sidewalk back out into the parking lot that we've already cleared. So we're doing it twice. So that slows down the process. So make sure you get out and shovel all the walks that have to go into the parking area first. That way you can haul it away with the plow and you're only doing it one time. Clear all curb lines in between all concrete stops. So again, treat that like as an extension of the sidewalk. You have to do what's in between the parking stops, those concrete parking stops out there. A lot of plow companies don't do that. And then that's where the snow builds up and turns to ice. And as you know, when you get out of your car and you walk to the sidewalk, you a lot of times have to step over those. And if now you're stepping over ice and snow, it's even more dangerous. So make sure you get all that cleared out and then plow it away with the truck. Also clear any doorways and entrances that open up the building. Get those done first. Clear all the walks around the building and the parking lot, all of them. Do the whole property. We don't leave any sidewalk unshoveled on a property. City sidewalks can be a little bit different. Sometimes we come back and do city sidewalks, but if you've got time to do them, I would recommend doing them right away. A lot of times what will happen is if we don't get them cleared, the city will plow over the sidewalk, and then it's even more material that we have to go back and get later. So if you can clear those when you're there the first time, even if the city comes back and does it, a lot of times you've gotten the bulk of the material off and they're just splashing their plow, um, windrows onto it. Sometimes that stuff will melt a lot quicker anyway if it's on a bare sidewalk. So keep that in mind. Um, as you can see in these pictures, the one on the right here is not what we do. They have left snow down the side here. And you can see also that's out in the parking lot. So again, this is all going to turn to ice and it's going to be there for days. Also, they haven't quite got the edge done. We go edge to edge on all our sidewalks, every single one of them, edge to edge. Do not just clear a path like this without coming back and making sure that you clear both sides. And typically you want to go down one side all the way down and then come back like he's doing and clear off the rest. But bottom line here is get edge to edge and no snow in the curbs. If also the other problem you have is if you don't clear out the curbs, this is also potential for a disaster. Actually, this is just melted and it's pooled up in here, and now tonight this is going to turn to a sheet of ice, and tomorrow morning this is going to be really dangerous. So make sure that you are clearing snow out of areas that need to be drained as well. Don't clog up any drains. So you need to look for those before you're shoveling. And as a shoveler, you may need to clear those drains by hand. So be prepared to do that as well. Putting down ice melt is critical. It's got to be done right. As you can see down here, this is what happens when you just grab a handful and clump it down. This is not only bad for the concrete, but it looks bad and it doesn't really work. So this is how I prefer to do it. It's basically like sowing grass seed. You grab a handful and you're bowling it out like throwing a bowling ball. You're tossing it. So that way you get this type of a spread pattern. It's also really important to make sure you do all the steps, all handicap parking spots, all door entrances, any area that looks dangerous, even if it's just got a ripple in the sidewalk or maybe the sidewalk is damaged a little bit, get some ice melt there just to make sure nobody falls. And don't over apply the ice melt. It's really easy to put way too much down. Remember, ice melt takes about 30 minutes to really activate. So you're not going to see it working necessarily before you've left the property. So I'd rather you err on the side of too much than not enough, but there's also too much. So try to just put down the right amount. And if you don't know how much is too much, then get with one of your supervisors and they'll probably show you. Try not to let it clump. And then don't waste the ice melt. That stuff's really expensive. It's getting more expensive every year. And we buy it by the pallet. So it seems like we have a lot, but it goes fast. And then never put the ice slicer on sidewalks and door fronts. Ice slicer is the bulk material that comes out of the spreaders that are on the back of the trucks. Sometimes it's really tempting to use those on sidewalks, but it gets tracked into buildings and then we get yelled at for staining their carpet. Make sure all shovels are returned in good working condition. If shovels are broken during the storm, make sure all parts are collected and returned to the shop for repair or replacement. Some of the parts on those shovels are warranted and some of them are replaceable. And we usually have a pretty big pile of scrap shovels so we can make good shovels out of. So don't throw them away on a site. Put them in the back of the truck, bring them back to the shop and get them in where we can analyze them and see what's going on. Do not pile up bags of ice melt on top of the shovels in the trucks. Obviously they can break open the bags, but they also can break the shovels. Do not leave shovels on the ground while loading ice melt. Sometimes it's really tempting to toss your shovels down on the ground while you're loading your truck with ice melt or taking ice melt out of the truck and putting it into buckets or whatnot. But make sure those shovels are in the truck. It's real easy to drive off and leave shovels. Do not use the shovels to break up ice on the walks. That will break them very quickly, and then you'll be out of shovels. Do not use shovels to clear ice clumps from walks and steps. Again, don't use them as a scraper. And do not use the trucks to clear off the hoods or the shovels to clear off the hoods and the roofs of the trucks. Also very tempting. These are our snow raiders. These are, we have 4 of these now. And this machine is for big sidewalks and driveways. They work really well, but you do need to be trained on how to use these. They're very expensive and can do a lot of damage. So we want to make sure we take care of them, but we also want to make sure we're using them appropriately on properties. So the pre-check would be before you start a snow raider, always check for oil. That should be standard on any mechanized piece of equipment, but always check for oil. Make sure the tires have sufficient air, but not overinflated. Make sure the fuel tank is full before it leaves the yard. And then also make sure you have an extra can of fuel. Snow raiders use regular unleaded fuel. They are not diesel. So make sure you're aware of that. And then double check the plow edge before you go out. Make sure the bolts are tight. And also make sure there's enough meat on the plow edge that you're not going to be plowing into the actual mold board. If you don't understand that or don't know about it, you need to check with the supervisor before you do it. Always go slow when plowing, when the blade is down. And you know, when you're pushing snow, just go super slow and look for sidewalk cracks and avoid hitting the cracks directly with a straight blade. They will catch and buckle. If you're at an angle when you come up to a crack, a lot of times they'll just slip right over them. Plan where you're going to push the snow ahead of time. If you push, once you've pushed a pile of snow, it's really hard to then come back and move it later. So make sure you know where you're going to put the snow and that you're not putting it in a place that has to be moved later. So don't block sidewalks or entrances to buildings with a pile thinking you're going to come back and move it later. That usually doesn't work. Avoid dragging the plows sideways along curbs. It's real tempting to stick that edge into a curb and just run along the curb line. But what that does is it beats up the sides of the plow. And our older snow raiders have metal plows, but the newer Boss ones have a poly. It's like a plastic blade, and that'll just get absolutely destroyed using it on curbs. So just stay off the curb slightly, or have a shoveler come and use a shovel to get it away from the curb. Check the fuel level about every 30 minutes. Make sure you don't run out of fuel. Sometimes these motors can be really hard to get started again if you've run out of fuel. And just be really careful when you're driving off curbs or going down ramps or anything like that. You can go down a single step. I don't recommend going down a double step, but a single step you can go down. Just be really careful. And then obviously, make sure the snow raider, when it gets back in the truck, is tied down carefully so that we don't have any issues with it. Let me just watch a little video of this snow raider in action here. You can see here the snow is really wet still, so it wasn't sliding off the board very well, so we were leaving this little trail. But in general, it just kicks it right off nice like that. Works really good. Definitely a lot faster than shovels. So save sidewalks like this one. This is up at Wolf Ranch. Save big sidewalks like this for the snow raider if you're shoveling. Let them knock that out if you can. However, if there's no snow raider on site, then go ahead and start shoveling it. But yeah, I just kind of want to show you what those can do. Here's another one. This is delicate work, so he's going really slow, but you kind of see what it's like. He's going super slow because he's going along this fence, and we want to make sure we don't hook that fence with the plow. That's what I mean by going slow. See, he's just creeping along. He's in complete control, being extremely careful, and he knows where he's going with the snow. This is good. All right, we'll keep moving along. Here's one more, just to kind of show you what these are capable of. These things can really move a lot of snow. I mean, you can see here, that's, I don't know, 12 inches, maybe 14 in places. And it's pretty wet. But you can see Lonnie here not having any trouble pushing those piles out of the way. Um, they're they're really they're really nice pieces of equipment, and they save a lot of back-breaking work. But we have to take care of them. They're about $12,000 a piece. That's $12,000 each. So we definitely need to take care of them. But you can see what an amazing job they do when used properly. So pretty cool. All right, plowing with trucks. We do a lot of plowing with our trucks, obviously, and so we need to make sure we do it right. Same thing applies for you as a driver. Make sure you are fueled up and have water and food. It's really, really important that you are ready to go and not just putting fuel in your truck, but putting fuel in your body. So again, same thing applies. Make sure you have what you need in your truck. Make sure the truck is fueled up before you leave, and make sure it's got bags of ice melt and shovels ready to go. Also, just make sure you got an ice scraper, especially if you're taking the truck home before a storm. Make sure you can get that windshield scraped in the morning. That's really important. If you're taking a diesel truck home for any reason, make sure you have the ability to plug it in with an extension cord. That's really important. And then again, just lay out your clothes the night before, get everything ready to go, be prepared. There's nothing worse than waking up at 1 a.m. with a phone call and not having any of your stuff ready and having to run through your apartment or your house, gathering the stuff that you think you're going to need. I can guarantee you're going to forget something. It's too hard to do it. So do it ahead of time. I like to keep a little backpack. I keep it year round, ready to go for snow. I have extra socks, a pair of gloves, things I don't necessarily think I'm going to need, maybe an extra sweatshirt. I always have snack food in there, things that can keep, for weeks at a time. And then I pack my lunch and I stick it in there as well and bring it with me. And I always have a big bottle of water at the same time. So again, the key here is be prepared for anything and everything. Make sure you have your paperwork if you need paperwork. Some of you, your routes are everything's in element time, so you don't have to worry about it. But especially if you're new to the company, you might want to take one of the printed out route sheets, so you'll have them. If you do that, they'll make sure you got a pen. Make sure you've got either a vest or a snow coat or something on so that people can see you, especially if you're shoveling. And make sure your truck is full before leaving the yard. Make sure the lights work on the plow, not just the truck lights, but the plow lights work. And then make sure the plow is working before you leave the yard. Once in a while, it's just an adjustment on the plugs or something simple, but make sure that's done before you leave. And then when you park the truck at night, make sure you turn the lights off. There's nothing worse than coming out at 2 a.m. with a foot of snow on the ground and having a dead truck because you left the lights on. So you got to be thinking ahead when you park your truck the night before. Safety is first and foremost. Be aware of who's around you. Suppliers often make deliveries in the middle of the night, so there's a lot of times delivery trucks coming and going. Sometimes employees arrive really early in the morning, so be aware of who's around you. When you're driving around town with your plow truck, make sure you have the plow angled. Try not to ever drive around town with it straight across. The reason for that is it gets airflow to the radiator. You can see there's a little bit of the radiator showing here. If this plow were straight across, it would be blocking the whole thing. Also, when you angle it like this, though, you might lose a little bit of light from one of your headlights. So you might have to just angle it back just a hair. That's something that's really important to keep track of as well when you're driving. And then like here, he's got it angled down toward the curb. You want to try to angle it away from the curb, which means sometimes you're moving the plow while you're driving across town. And you obviously have to be careful doing that. But what can happen here is if you just accidentally cut the corner too close going around a curb, and this wing happens to grab that, it'll actually kick the whole truck out and spin you out. So you want the plow to be up over the curb and the down part to be out in the street. always be checking the temperature gauge of your truck when you're driving around town. We don't want these trucks overheating, and they can overheat when they have a plow on them. So just be aware of that. Always wear a seatbelt when plowing, especially driving around town. Drive defensively. Always yield and give traffic the right of way. Working in busy parking lots can be really frustrating, and time consuming and definitely dangerous. So just accept these conditions as normal and plan for them. Know that you're going to have really annoying people in the parking lot while you're plowing. That's just going to happen. So just plan on it, put on your patience, and be ready to deal with it. And then due to heavy loads in your truck, stopping distances are a lot less than it should be. So you have to plan ahead, leave more room between you and the vehicle in front of you. And then, just always be ready for unexpected stops. Key principle with plowing a parking lot is basically get the snow as far away from the building as possible. When plowing a parking lot, first thing you want to do is find the entrances and the exits, get those cleared. Then you want to locate the primary entrance to a building. You want to get that shoveled and cleared out first. Figure out the low spot in the parking lot. You're going to want to try to plow the snow downhill if possible. That way also the snow won't melt and run down the parking lot. If it's already at the bottom of the parking lot, it's going to stay down there. So you clear from the building out. You work your way from the building to the outer edges of the parking lot. Back drag all parking spots at the front of the building and haul snow away. Do not attempt to clear these spots into piles at the front of the building. So we want to limit the piles around the entrances of buildings. We want to get that snow out. And we also want to go curb to curb, just like we do edge to edge on sidewalks. When we're plowing, we go curb to curb. Make sure you get your piles far enough back that you have room to put more snow if it keeps snowing or we get another snow in a couple days. Make sure you give yourself room. Catch basins and drains need to be clear at all times. And sometimes this, as I said, means you got to get out and shovel it by hand, but that's really important to do. I'm going to give you the first password here. The first password is Jeep. So write that one down or memorize that one. Jeep is the first password. Avoid staging snow in the middle of a parking lot, thinking that you're going to move it later. Just like I said with the Snow Raider, once you've stopped a pile, it's really hard to get it going again. Never pile snow on someone else's property or landscaping, or the street, or nearby driveways, sidewalks, steps, garage entrances, loading docks, other buildings, cars, mailboxes, dumpsters, fire hydrants. Make sure you keep a 3-foot clearance around any fire hydrant. If at all possible, it should be 10 feet, but minimum of 3 feet. Don't pile snow on shrubbery, and definitely don't put it in handicap parking spots. So like a property like this, you can see where the shadows are. Those are going to be spots where snow doesn't melt. So this was taken at a time when the shadow was pretty small, but these shadows go all the way out into these parking spots. So for instance, here, all this snow on the sidewalk, everything around here, all the snow in the parking, all of it has to go somewhere else. We cannot be putting any piles around any of these islands or anything. You can't pile the snow on here. This is just an example, but you got to get snow away. On an area where it gets sun, sometimes you can get away with putting a pile, but typically all these areas in here are going to need to be back dragged out and hauled to the outer edge of the parking lot. Same thing with this, all this area in here would need to be hauled out away. There's nowhere in here where you could put a pile of snow and it's going to be acceptable. So you got to get the snow away from the building as much as possible. Get it out on these outer edges, get it into the grass where it can melt, keep it away from buildings. Always allow gravity to help move your snow. Again, plow from high to low. Start high on the property and work to the bottom. Windrow as much as possible. Well, I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Clear an area once if possible. It slows you down so much when you have to go back and move snow twice. If a corner is required to plow around, Make sure there's no traffic coming around the corner. And what I mean by that is if there's a building corner and you can't see around the corner, you might need to have somebody spot you and make sure nobody's coming, or you might need to get out and just look. Do not leave piles out in open space thinking that you'll come back and move them later. Again, they freeze and can become really difficult to move. And do not overload one area of snow pile. Plan for a second night of snow or a second storm and leave yourself room. So that means if you're going to push it up on the curb, make sure you get it up on the curb and then back into the landscape area so that you have room for more snow the next night. Here's a little video of windrowing. This is what windrowing looks like. So he's working his way from one side to the other, and he's just pushing all the snow over. He's using about half of the blade. If you use more than half, then you're going to have spill. And you can see he's got nothing spilling over. So then he's going to back up and he's going to go hit it again. So let me just play that one more time for you so you can see he's using half the blade. He's working on a curve. He's working out. And he's got the plow angled and he's not having any spill. And he's also not going too fast. So that's what it should look like. This is what I would say is leaving snow to be moved later. So this is, we came down the corner here, we made this big pile, but now this is parking area here. So now these piles have to be moved. And I'm telling you right now, that's almost impossible to do with a truck. So you're gonna have to bring a skid loader or something back the next night, and that's costs the company a lot of money and time, frustration. Just get the pile moved to the right spot the first time. Here you can see we come up to the curb, we lift our plow, and then we push over up onto the landscape. That's what I mean by leaving yourself room for more snow the next night. That's a really important technique that everybody needs to learn. You don't plow into the curb though. You come up to the curb, you stop, you raise the plow, and then you keep going. Back dragging. This guy is back dragging out a loading dock area, which is great, but he's kind of leaving it short. You want to get as close to the building as you can. Obviously, I don't want you touching the building, but we want to, this now has to be shoveled out of here. So if this is how he's going to do it, he needs to get out and shovel about 5 feet here first, and then back drag it out. This is an example of what I mean by that. Again, we're windrowing. We're using about half the plow into our pile. And then you're going to see here in a minute, he's going to come up to a curb. He's slowing down. He's getting ready. He's going to come up to the curb. He's going to straighten out his plow. He's going to locate the curb. He's going to raise his plow and he's going to drive up and over. Now he's going to back up. That was perfect. That was perfect. So let's watch that one more time. Coming down, he's got his plow right in the middle. He's not trying to plow too much at a time. He's going at a decent speed, but still slow and in control. He's going to get to the end of the run here. He's going to locate the curb, basically, find out where it's at. You're going to see him straighten out his plow. He's going to lift it up and over onto the curb. Now he's got plenty of room here for the next night to put another pile of snow, just like what he just did. So really good job there by this driver. Okay, just a few more notes. Drive slow around town. There's absolutely no need to be in a hurry. We've got plenty of time typically to get everything done. Keep the plow angled during transport. Don't plow too fast either, go slow. Snow will drift over the plow and cover the windshield if you're going too fast. So make sure your wipers are in good shape and working, and the slower you go, the less of that you'll have. It's hard to stop if somebody comes across your path, so leave yourself lots of room. Keep your lights on at all times while plowing, even during the daytime. Keep those lights on so people can see you. If your truck is equipped with a strobe light, keep that on at all times, especially driving around town. When you get back to the yard after a snowstorm, make sure you check, does the truck need fuel? Do you need to go back to any of the properties and finish up? Was there anything you skipped, or there was somebody parked where you couldn't do your job or something? Make sure you get that done, or at least let a supervisor know. While you were out, did you notice anything on the properties? Were there any broken trees, broken curbs, any damage that you saw? Maybe any damage that we caused by plowing or shoveling? Just let us know. Sometimes we see vandalism, damage done by storms that we would like to be able to let our property managers and our building owners know about. Did you get LMN? Did you get all your time in LMN correctly? Or if you filled it out on paper, did you get it all written down correctly? Does the shop need to know anything about your truck? Was there any damage done? Was there something that wasn't working throughout the night? And then again, does the truck need fuel? If it does, please fill it up. Ice slicer, that's the bulk material that we put in these sanders. It is super expensive, but it works really good. So you got to know what you're doing. Probably not going to put anybody in a spreader truck that hasn't have some experience. If we have done that, then hopefully a supervisor's keeping good touch with you. But always make sure you test the sander before you load it with material. Make sure the auger is working. It's a lot easier to fix it when there's no material in it. Once you've dumped material in it, sometimes we have to literally hand dig out all the material. Also, just visually inspect the hopper, make sure there's no obstructions, things in the hopper like sticks and rocks. And believe it or not, I've actually had a dead bird in one of mine that would have caused a big jam if I had put material in there. So make sure you check that. Always load your hopper full. Never leave the yard with a partial load unless you're told to do so. Maximize all your trips. So even if you only think you need a quarter ton, take a full load. You can always put it back when you get back to the yard. But if you get to where you're going, we may call you and say, hey, we need you to go over to this other property. If you only planned on doing one property, you may have to go back to the yard and load more material, and that slows us down. So always leave with a full load. When you're loading at CNC or Pioneer, always clear off the truck bed of overloaded material. We pay by the ton, so every little bit that spills over and lands on the bed, we're still paying for it, but we're not going to be able to use it. So make sure that you clear all that off the bed. It's really easy to do with the flat beds. It's a little harder to do with the pickup beds, but just be careful. And obviously go around corners slower than normal because you got a lot of weight up on top. And then always make sure you've documented the time you left the yard, CNC or Pioneer when loading. The size of the gate opening determines the amount of material that goes out the back. Hopefully they're adjusted before you leave the yard, but you just need to be aware of that. The auger or the conveyor is what, the speed of those is what dictates how much material hits the spinner. The speed of the spinner is what dictates how far away from the truck the material is spread. So on the SnowX plows, it's just a dial inside the cab that dictates that. On the metal red poly one, that one has wings, deflectors that dictate the spread. The speed of the vehicle is also really important. You want to be going fairly slow so you get a good amount of material down on the ground, but you don't want to be going so slow that you're overloading the ground as well. Always make sure to stop the spreader when you're done with your pass. It's really easy to forget to turn it off, and then you're just driving down the road with the sander going and you're just dumping material on the ground. Ice slicer costs about $135, $145 a ton. So it's super expensive. You don't want to be wasting it, and you sure don't want to be putting it out on city streets. Do not apply near doors and front entrances, as we talked about. Use enough to be effective, but not overdone. Slicer tracks into the buildings and stains carpet, so you just got to put down just enough, but not too much. Make sure to apply to areas that are designed and needed for slicers. So don't be putting it down where we have not indicated it needs to be put. Be sure to note how much slicer you use on each application. You've got to get that into element time. That's how we bill for it. Don't set the spinner too fast. It'll actually cover cars' bumpers and stuff when you're driving down a parking lot. So you just need it to just cover a little bit wider than the width of your truck. This is a video of what it looks like speed-wise. You can see he's just kind of cruising along, maybe 12 miles an hour, 10, 12 miles an hour. And you can see the material coming out in a nice, even pattern. That's good. Snow blowers. We don't use them a whole lot, but when we do, we really need them because it's really deep. So I've got a couple videos here. I'm not going to play these right now because we don't really have time with this video. But if you want to watch one of these videos, just let me know and I'll text it to you and you can watch them. Again, just to kind of wrap this up, safety is really important with snow removal. Couple things you need to know would be, again, hydrate yourself at least 24 hours before an event. Drinking water the morning of helps you, but mostly just makes you have to go to the bathroom. You need to drink that water 24 hours before, as best you can. Have food ready to go. Eat a good dinner the night before. Supply your body with its energy that it needs. Don't go out drinking. Alcohol dehydrates you. Plus, we can't have you out working if you've been drinking. So if you know a snowstorm's coming, which you typically do, you need to plan ahead for that and take it seriously the night before and be ready. Also, the night before, you need sleep. Go to bed early. Don't stay up late. A lot of times it's hard to sleep when you know you got snow coming, but you got to do your best to get as much sleep as you can and be alert and ready to go for a long night. As far as PPE goes, you need to have a coat. You need to have a hat. You need to have gloves. We provide some gloves occasionally, but a lot of times people don't like our gloves. They want to use their own winter gloves. That's fine. If you need a pair of gloves, talk to us and we'll get you a pair. But typically the guys like their better gloves for snow. Boots, you need to have good boots. You need to have waterproof boots and they need to be insulated. If they're leather, a lot of times they just soak up water and they get wet and cold. Ideally you want a waterproof boot and maybe something that's not leather. A typical steel toe work boot is the last thing you want with being out in the cold. So, and then, make sure you have long johns or some sort of long underwear or something underneath. Also dress in layers. You get hot, you work up a sweat, you want to take a layer off, but then you're going to get cold again. So you want to put that layer back on again. So dress in layers, be prepared. Like I said, maybe have an extra pair of socks or something with you in your bag. The other thing too, with snowblowers we didn't talk about is, get help loading a snowblower in the back of a truck. One person should not be doing it alone. You should have two people, one on each side, pick it up, load it in and go. Same could be said for the snow raiders. Loading them in and out of these trucks with our ramps is, it can be done by yourself, but it's better if you have help. Somebody spotting you or just, being extra careful. So do that. Otherwise, it's basically just when you're shoveling, use your legs, try not to use your back, try to squat down with your legs. Don't try to lift too much snow. Lift a little bit at a time and come back for more. If you don't feel like you have the right shovel or the right type of shovel, you need to let us know. We have a few different types of shovels in the shed there, so get what you need. Again, bottom line is just be safe, have fun, enjoy it. Next password is going to be here, Corvette. Corvette is the second password. I said have fun plowing snow. Why not use the password Corvette? Have fun. Snow removal can be enjoyable. I love plowing snow. I like being out when there's nobody else out on the roads, but you have to be careful and you have to be alert. Even if you think there's nobody on the roads, somebody's out there that'll come out of nowhere. So be paying attention for that. Also, just look around you and be aware of people. It's crazy how many people are out walking in the middle of snowstorms in the middle of the night. Um, who knows where they're going or what they're doing, but they're out there. And a lot of times they're dressed in black or whatever. They don't seem to care that you can see them. So always be looking around, especially plow drivers, be looking for your own shovelers. That's really important. Luckily, knock on wood, we've never had a shoveler get hurt by our own vehicle. So let's continue that. Hope that'll about wrap it up. I need you guys to give your supervisors the 2 passwords and make sure they know you watched this video. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to do some more hands-on videos with hooking up and taking off plows. And we'll also do one with the Snow Raider. I'm going to try to attach those to the end of this video. Hope you're doing well, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.